What's up everybody and welcome back to Fight Bible. Today I am here to talk about Eddie the Beast Hall. Recently Eddie put up on his channel he tried to beat Francis Ngannou's heavyweight punching power using one of those pressurized pad machines, which is amazing. Eddie did really well, except he didn't. Eddie is an absolute animal. He is world strongman champion several times over. He holds multiple world records, including the world's heaviest deadlift of 500 and a bit kilos. Real nasty video. The guy literally had a brain hemorrhage whilst lifting. Absolutely incredible. The guy shows extreme feats of strength in everything he does. But is that all he has? So let's rewind the tape 3 years to when Francis Ngannou joined the UFC. The UFC was so impressed with this newbie coming into the UFC that they took him to the Performance Institute and tested his punching power. There, he set the world record. Incredible ability, absolute natural athlete. Eddie Hall then gets into boxing, sees this world record and goes, fuck it, I'ma beat that. But today we're here to review Eddie's technique because, let's face it, if it was better, it would have been a better score because he failed to beat Francis's record. Just looking at the thumbnail for Eddie's video, you can already see that his back foot is literally flying. He is doing the Superman. His right hand is extended, his right foot is as far off the floor as you could possibly get, and he's pretty much toppling over. The video starts with Eddie showing some of his sparring and some of his demo footage, and for 165 kilos and not a professional fighter, he can move. He's powerful, obviously, he's explosive, that's what he does for a living. But he fights like a strongman. He throws everything into his punches. There's no finesse, there's no snap, there's no elegance, there's no the little nuances of boxing. It's just a brawl. Eddie has incredible stamina as well. He's a swimmer. He is very competitive with everything he does. If he challenges a runner, he will do pretty well. If he does a gymnastics challenge, he'll do pretty well. That is just the nature of the beast. But if you could just imagine how much better he would be if he finessed those final skills, the nuances of boxing, the ability to move and flow like a boxer rather than just charge at it like a rhino. Back to the video. Okay, so Eddie getting all excited about trying to break this machine. So once you fast forward it through all of the explanation of how the machine works, Eddie eventually puts on a pair of gloves and starts swinging. And you can already see his technique is kind of all over the place. He has a run up. Look at that right foot. It is so far off the floor, but look at the score. 98,000. So there you go. He's knocking 114,000 of human force Franklin units. And that's a lot of power. That is a hell of a lot of power coming through that bag. But it's not a punch technique. Let's face it, guys. Look how sweaty he was. Oh my God, the guy is dripping from throwing about 4 or 5 punches. And I don't blame him, that is a hell of a lot of muscle mass to move. There is no actual punch technique used at all, except his fist hits the pad. That's about as good as it gets. Wow, it's almost a cricket bowl technique. He comes fully over the top and then drops all 165 kilos through that little pad. Doesn't show all of them though, he is registering some 60s and 70s on some, so it's interesting to see the difference between a 60,000 and 100,000 because they must be very similar. So now we're going to see how the guy who owns the machine does. And you would think he's got good technique. Yeah, you see how he drops his left hip in, his right foot stays planted, and he's only hitting mid-60s. And that's an absolutely fine overhand technique, but he just hasn't got the weight transfer. So you have to argue that is Eddie's technique better? Because there is clearly way more power. And if he just applied the proper boxing technique, would he beat the world record? That other guy didn't have a chance. He didn't have the body mechanics, he didn't have the weight, and he just kind of dropped into it, scoring mid-30s. As you can see by his technique, he's all over the place. He's leaning off his complete back foot. He is not using the floor to drive his punch through the pad. We all know how important it is to use your posterior chain. In this, Eddie is going for a completely different technique. He is going for the Hail Mary. He is throwing that shit. It's amazing how the difference in just the pure weight of Eddie Hall. He is literally the epitome of the juggernaut. As soon as he gets any momentum, there is no stopping it. He will break anything in his path.
Prisoner must be confined at all times. If he builds any momentum, no object can stop him.
Juggernaut. I can't imagine why.
Which is a true accolade to be able to say, but in a boxing ring, it takes more than just brute power. So Eddie actually has a fight coming up very soon against Hathor Bjornsson, who is the other strongman world champion. The guy is an absolute fucking animal, also known as the Mountain from Game of Thrones. The guy is an absolute tank. Will this be a boxing match for the ages, or will it just be literally two animals running into each other? It's a hard one. I don't really know what's going to happen. Like, they both had a little bit of fights here and there. There's sparring footage of them both online. But I think when they get in the ring, it's just going to be just like two rhinos running into each other. You can see his punches coming from an absolute mile off, especially with that wind up and that big step inwards. And all it takes, if Thor slips any of those big overhands, Eddie will be completely off balance. You've got to remember, punching a bag or punching an object, there is some feedback. You obviously land and then you can spring back off of it. If you miss one of those punches, you're going to fall on your ass or your face. And if Thor can capitalize on Eddie's massive power and sidestep and then counterpunch, it could be game over very early. But then we also don't know Thor's reaction. We don't know how he's going to fight. Is he going to be the same? Is he going to come out like a bull in a china shop and just try and bulldoze Eddie in the exact same way that Eddie is probably going to try and bulldoze him? In this recent video that Eddie posted, he tried to beat Francis's record of 129,000 units on this punch machine. The maths for this punch machine, I'll put in next.
Today we're going to be looking at the overhand right, which is the most powerful punch for Francis, and also that off-balance uppercut. See how he can demonstrate force and explosion in difficult, unorthodox positions. So amazing results today. Francis demonstrated a punching power just over 129,000 units. That's higher than the previous record of 114,000 demonstrated by kickboxer Tyrone Spong. This is the highest recording ever, not only here in the Performance Institute, but around the world. Off-balance uppercut still generating 122,000 units, so really close to that overhand right, demonstrating his ability to throw hard punches off balance in the octagon.
Bearing in mind, this was filmed 3 years ago as well, so imagine how much better Francis would be now if he was to do this again. How relevant is this actual punching power in reference to a fight? Not so much, because obviously you can really load up on those machines, you can telegraph as much as you want. Technique is very important to create the best power. If you look at Eddie's technique, it's kind of all over the place versus Francis's, which is what he would use in a ring. If you look at Francis's technique, it is incredible. It's absolutely perfect. His weight transfer is impeccable. He doesn't lift off the floor. Everything stays pin sharp the whole way through, and it is just pure muscle and body mechanics. Whereas with Eddie, he just kind of runs at it and launches his fist. He puts all 165 kilos of his body weight through the pad, hence the power figure. He is only about power. There is very little technique. Every single punch starts at his chin, drops to his waist, and then he just uses that huge momentum and just swings. There's very little correct technique in this. If you saw somebody doing this on the pads or the bag in your gym, you would laugh. Is Francis the hardest hitting heavyweight in the world? It's hard to say not to, because a lot of other guys have done this. When Eddie went to the coach, he said, have any of the other heavyweights been here? They said no. But there is footage of Anthony Joshua hitting punching bags and scoring pretty high on them, but it's never been scientifically recorded. Who would be the world champion? Who would be the world record holder in the hardest punch? Drop your comment below. Who do you think would be able to beat Francis in this contest? But there you go, guys. We hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you check back for another one soon. Like, subscribe to the video. But for today, from me, Joe, I'm out.